Sadnam. We are Jen and Ramtin from Heart Center Revolution.
Our intention with this podcast is to share the best of Kundalini Yoga and conscious living with you so you can live a more heart-centered life.
Satnam, and welcome to episode 43 of the Heart Centered Revolution podcast. We're so excited to connect with you today and about this episode. It's a part 2. So in this episode, we are going to talk about 3 characteristics of this transition that we're going through from the Piscean age to the Aquarian age. And so there's 10 characteristics total that are talked about in Kundalini Yoga. We did the first 4 in episode 38. And so if you want to, you can go back and listen to that and then come back and listen to this one, but it's not necessary. They're pretty independent of one another. And as usual, after our discussion, I will lead you through a really powerful pranayam. And this pranayam helps clean out toxins from the body using the breath and the lungs. And it also helps to balance the throat chakra so that we can communicate our intentions with clarity. And that also helps with manifestation too. If you've been enjoying these episodes or you're happy we're back, please follow or subscribe to our podcast wherever you listen to them. And don't forget, from August 16th to August 22nd, we have an opportunity for you to get a free video guided meditation from us. And so I'll leave some instructions at the end of this episode on how you can get that. All right, this is a pretty dense episode and discussion, so we're going to hop right into it. We're back in this episode with a discussion about the values and characteristics of the Aquarian age. And so we'll talk a little bit about the transition in general, and then we'll talk about 3 specific characteristics of this time frame. And we just find these characteristics so helpful to review as we are reading the news and just seeing the increase in kind of stress and intensity that is going on right now. But I'm getting ahead of myself. So let's back up. So the Aquarian age, so the official transition occurred December 21st of 2013, or around then. I might have the exact date wrong, but it was in 2013. And these are massive shifts of ages. So we're moving from the Piscean age into the Aquarian age. But it will take a few decades for this transition to occur. And so that's why everything seems so chaotic and seems to be changing at such a quick, rapid pace right now, because we are going through this massive change of eras. And so it takes decades for the change to take full effect. So I pulled a couple of quotes that I really like that I think kind of speak to this shift. And so one is that this change is happening on all levels of life at once. And it's not sequential. It's not like one thing shifts and then another thing shifts. It's not orderly and it's not predictable. And so it feels very chaotic. And then this change affects each one of us personally. So we all, as a human species, every single one of us is being impacted by this shift from the Piscean age to the Aquarian age. We're really being asked to elevate our consciousness so that we can move into this new age. And so I think the generation that's being born right now and coming into age right now, their consciousness is at a different level than mine is. So I'm 40 years old right now. I'm almost 41. And so I've got to kind of up-level my consciousness, whereas the generations that are being born now are being born into a higher state of consciousness. So those of us who have been around, we've got to use these practices and find tools to up-level our consciousness. So another quote I like about this time period is that every person down to the grassroots of society is reaching for something to do about it. So we're all feeling it, and we're all reaching and searching for a way to manage this time. This time is intense. We're feeling a lot of pressure inside ourselves, outside of ourselves. There's all these changes, so it can be hard to hold on to an identity. It can be hard to hold on to patterns, to something that made you comfortable. A lot of secrets and deep truths. Some darkness is coming to the light, and so we're kind of going through this shadow work as a planet, as a society, as we transition into the Aquarian age. And so every person has to accept the responsibility to elevate and manage their own consciousness and their own level of awareness. And we all need to learn how to deal with the stress of these times. And I don't say stress like in a bad way. It's not like the stress from work. Guru Singh often says that yoga works through tension, pressure, stress, and friction, right? So to create change, I think we can all agree that we need change from the Piscean age to the Aquarian age. But this change is only going to occur through tension, pressure, stress, and friction. And this is applied to every aspect of our society and applied to every single one of us individually. So we all as individuals have to take the responsibility for how am I going to manage this stress? How am I going to, like a diamond, allow this stress to create pressure on me? And so I can turn into something different. There can be alchemy. I can, again, raise my consciousness, raise my vibration, be part of the leadership of this transition into the Aquarian age. All right, so just we're leaving the Piscean age, which was a lot about like status, and some people at the top having control over the majority of the money, of the information, people having secrets, having control over other people. And we're moving into the Aquarian age where it'll be more egalitarian. Compassion will lead the way. And people can no longer have secrets. And if you pay attention to the news, you're seeing this. There's like the Me Too movement is coming out. We're seeing, documented cases of police brutality in a way that we haven't seen before. So secrets are no longer able to be kept in the Aquarian age. And we're just in this evolutionary transition through and to the Aquarian age where there won't be secrets. We'll be led by compassion. It'll be more equitable, egalitarian, empathetic. We'll live more as a collective than we have in the Piscean age, which is more individualistic. So this is a good transition that we're making. It's just in the transition part that we're feeling the pressure and the stress. So there are a lot of schools of thought that are kind of teaching and talking about the times and these transitions that we're going through. But there are 10 kind of overarching themes that all of those schools of thought has in common, because each one has a slightly different priority or lens or bias that they're looking through. But there are 10 themes, like I said, that in Kundalini Yoga we've identified as part of this transition. And we talked about 4 of them in a prior episode, in episode 38. And in this episode, we're going to talk about 3 of them or 3 more. And then in a future episode, we'll do another 3. So the first one for this episode is that complexity is increasing, as is our need to deal with it. I'll repeat that one time. Complexity is increasing, and so is our need to deal with it. And so what do you think about that, Ramtin?
Well, first of all, isn't that the truth? I mean, complexity is increasing, and is increasing on within our microcosm of our individuality and individual lives, and on macrocosm of our whole state of being and creation, as our consciousness keeps expanding. But I think complexity is kind of very ego-driven, very intellectually driven. So, the evolution of our consciousness has brought so much intellectuality to the forefront of our consciousness. We sort of look up to those who are intellectually driven, and which is, for the right reasons, but we're rewarded mostly for intellectual achievements in a way. So that by itself, if we are only if you only focus on that aspect of who we are, that aspect of who we are raises that complexity, and sometimes complexity comes from misunderstanding, you know. Sometimes complexity is a result of misunderstanding and misperception, of miscommunication, even because of our own own ego, because of our own perspective of things, and not having a common language in a way, so there's a way to reduce that complexity, and that's what this our awareness of what's going on, our unity, reduces that complexity.
Like life has just become so complex. We have all these balancing, all these goals and desires and passions and needs that we're having to balance, and it can feel overwhelming. And so we need to deal with it. But then as you were talking, I was thinking about how but complexity really is a problem of the mind. And so something feels complex or feels overwhelming, because I guess complexity by itself is neutral. That's not a bad thing. But what makes complexity feel negative is that it can feel overwhelming when we try to wrap our mind around the whole thing. And when we try to understand everything that's going on, when we're trying to understand all the facets of society right now using our mind, then the complexity is overwhelming. But if we use our hearts, like you're saying, if we elevate ourselves, if we get out of our mind and get into our hearts and connect through compassion and empathy, then we don't actually have to understand all the facets of what's going on right now. We can encompass all of it and embrace all of it with compassion and love, and really settle into our own heart center, settle into our own connection to our soul and spirit, settle into our own connection to the whole. And then the complexity is not overwhelming. So that's kind of the way to deal with it, is to move into your heart center and try to get out of your mind and try not to understand every single piece of absolutely everything that's going on right now.
We are who we are as human beings. We're designed, so to speak, this way for a reason. We have our mind, our mental brain, state of the mind, and aspect of who we are, and our emotions. We have this physical body, so on and so forth. So for so long, every aspect of our educational system, even perhaps even philosophy and obviously psychology, focused on mainly the mind aspect of who we are, and that mental or aspect of who we are, the focus has been on one part of that mind that we talk about, right? The functionality of the brain and the mechanical aspect of it for most part, and is being equated to the consciousness. It is equated to the mental aspect. Our mental aspect goes beyond just the brain, and the intellectual aspect of who we are, it focuses only on the functionality of the brain. Learning, learning is limited to only that aspect of who we are. So as we open ourselves to become more holistic, we have to tap into our heart center, as Jen just mentioned, and that way we become more holistic. That way we're not narrowing our abilities, our potential, to just the mental aspect of who we are. That complexity is reduced, but the intelligence is increased. A lot of people equate our values and who we are just by how smart an individual is. Being smart is just being able to do certain things that we have repeated for so long and learned, very well. That's being smart. And we are smart in so many ways, in our habits, good and bad, or the things that we do over and over again. Being intelligent is being open, being open to receive, open-minded to allow the mind and heart to work in harmony. We need that intelligence we need to bring that intelligence to our identity, which is the next sort of a character we're going to talk about. We're going to bring that within ourselves to simplify it. At the same time, that simplicity allows us to expand, allows us to go beyond the limited self.
Beautifully said. And you kind of teased it, but we'll transition into the sixth characteristic of the Aquarian age. Again, 3 of them were in a previous episode. We just did the 5th, and then this is the 6th. So the 6th characteristic is that our sense of personal identity and its foundation is shifting. So I'll say that one more time. Our sense of personal identity and its foundation is shifting. And I find this so true. It's just such an accurate reflection of what we're going to. I think, in the past 10 years, even what it means like to be a wife or a mother or a man or a woman or Black or Indigenous, like we're just shedding all of these identities and learning more about all of these identities. I guess not shedding them, but they're becoming more fluid and more flexible. And what we thought it meant to be, what we thought we were identifying as, like as a woman or a wife, like those roles that we play are no longer holding as much weight. And so what is our identity? Who are we in that circumstance where there's these aspects that people see us as, and there's roles we play, but what really is our true identity? And what do we base that on? And is there something we can base that on that isn't flexible, that doesn't change over time? So like I just became a mother, and so that's become a part of my identity, but that's flexible over time. I wasn't a mother 3 years ago. And so that's not really who I am because I existed 3 years ago. And so it's just this interesting dynamic of who am I infinitely, like across lifetimes and eons and thousands of years, and then who am I in this moment in the roles I play here on Earth. And I think all of those aspects are important, but it's about what are you identifying with in the moment and which of those identities is serving you the best right now.
Yeah, I mean, how we see ourselves, how we kind of associate with that concept of personal identity is important. Is it something that those things that we are stuck with, as where we were born, color of our eyes, skin, whatever, all that stuff. There are different theories and philosophies behind how we choose to come to this earth and the purposes that we identify with. Those type of identities should not be relevant to as far as who we truly are and how we value ourselves, and then as we move on, we grow to create some identities for ourselves. And if those identities are, again, very intellectually oriented, then that creates more complexity. Ties in with what we talked about just a few minutes ago. But if that how we identify with ourselves and shift the foundation, I think the key term here is the foundation, as we has to do with our first chakra as well, right? How we develop, how redevelop, create that shift within our own identification and foundation. Then we could build on it. And create a better world for ourselves, as opposed to try to fight our own identity or fight other people's identity. So there has to be a unity that we gotta create. So that unity is not going to be created through the intellectual aspect of who we are. It has to be through our heart.
Yeah, and when I think of identity in terms of Kundalini Yoga teachings, two things come to mind. One is you are a spiritual being having a human experience. And so, how much of your identity is connected to that spiritual part of yourself, to your soul, to your spirit, to your connection to divine intelligence or the collective consciousness, whatever you it. And then the other thing that comes to mind is Sat Nam, like so simple. The truth is my name. I am the truth. So Sat Nam is how we connect to our personal individual truth. So like I'm a drop of collective creative consciousness that is energetically, spiritually connected to everybody else. But I am an individual expression of God or creative consciousness. And so my Sat Nam is my individual creative expression of that collective consciousness. And so really recognizing that and honoring that and walking through my day like, yeah, I am a drop of the ocean and connected to everything else shifts how I see other people, how I value myself, how I interact with the world, and how I manage these daily stressors that we're all going through as things are intensifying.
Absolutely. I mean, that says it all right there. I mean, I am a spiritual being having a human experience. That's it. Really. I mean, it's just we came from, what some people call nowhere into somewhere, right? Because we don't remember where we came from. And that's the game. That's the game, really. That, right, okay, you have a clean slate right here. But that clean slate is kind of conditioned through the environment and everything else that goes along with it. And this expansion of consciousness here makes us realize what is worth, really dwelling on and continuing to focus on and want to spend on time learning and relearning and, enjoying, and what does not. It doesn't kind of negate anything that we have created as far as our financial, economical, and educational, as far as what is useful or not, but it just brings a different perspective of all of that, and certainly allows us to really have a different perspective when it comes to politics or everything else that brings more separation in our life.
Very true. All right. The seventh characteristic of the Aquarian age, or the transition into it, is that this is an age of paradox. We are more global and more individual. We have fewer boundaries and more demand for political separations. Everything is faster and we have less time. We need far more love and unity, for we have more fear and tremendous insecurity. So I'll read that one more time. This is an age of paradox, more global and more individual, with fewer boundaries and more demand for political separations. Everything is faster and we have less time. We need far more love and unity, for we have more fear and tremendous insecurity. When I think about these paradoxes, I also hear polarity, right? So the mind thinks in black and white, and I identify that with the Piscean age, like something is this or that. It's black and white. And as we move into the Aquarian age, where we're looking more holistically at what's going on, I think that's where we're getting these paradoxes. So we're no longer one thing or another thing. We are all things. It's not this or that. It's this and that. And so this is really hard for our minds, because evolutionarily, we haven't thought this way much before. We're in the habit of black and white. And it's going to take practice to encompass both ends of a spectrum as being true and valid and current. And then to talk about the examples of paradoxes here specifically, like we're both more global and individualistic. and fewer boundaries and more demand for political separations. It just makes me think of social media, where we're more global. Like I said before, like I can see what someone's eating or cooking themselves in Nigeria. Like, that's crazy cool. Like, I have little windows into people's lives all over the planet. And yet we are more individual. We are isolated more. We are more into our own when what we really need is connection. And then I also think this paradox is really interesting, that everything is faster. Technology is faster, cars are faster, planes are faster, phones are faster, everything's moving faster. People are actually more productive at work, and yet we seem to have less time. And so what is this paradox about, where as things move faster, they kind of just speed up, and it doesn't create more time unless you proactively create that time to slow down and counterbalance it.
Yeah, absolutely. As you were talking, I was thinking we were kind of taught and conditioned to think in black and white. It's kind of praised that, to be that clarity is, we've been taught to just be right about something or is wrong, right? Is one way or the other. Do, don't, yes, no, right, wrong. And our security has been within that, state of the mind of, if I'm right, then I'm good. If I'm wrong, I'm bad. You have to agree with the masses. You have to be part of the community. You have to be, you got to jump on that bandwagon, whatever it is. And then you're safe and secure. There's your individuality, for most part is not, rewarded for a lot of things. Part of that, the paradoxical way of life is sort of, as you just mentioned, expanded as we narrow again our whole state of being of who we are into just, very intellectual aspect of who we are, wrong, right, yes, no, this way is the right way, that way is not the right way, and just like the example, black and white, politics, left and right, all that stuff that exists in our life, as opposed to, just allowing, as we become aware of differences in cultures, races, everything else that exists, is to really become a witness it, and two things: notice the common base, the commonality that exists, and become aware of what the differences are adding to your own life, what is teaching you, and understanding why are there differences.
Okay, I wanted to wrap up this discussion with the last part of this characteristic, that we need far more love and unity, for we have more fear and tremendous insecurity. And I think that this really, to me, speaks to this moment in time, and even heart-centered revolution, like why we're behind this movement. Because with the stressors and the changes and the shifts, and we're all shedding identities and we're acclimating to a new reality, like every 3 hours, I feel like there's a new reality that we have to acclimate to. And that can make us feel very insecure and unstable, understandably. But what we need to do, and the way to manage that, is to tap into love and unity, to connect with your heart center, to connect with your compassion, and to connect with community. And so this is something that is so easy to get into, being a lone wolf and doing your own thing. And even just, if you're in a family, staying with your nuclear family and not going out and building community. But that is the antidote, is moving into your heart center, using compassion, and connecting to your community.
100% agree. I mean, it really comes down to this, that this the transformation that I think we need as human species is to expand our consciousness through our heart center. And anything that is related to that aspect of who we are. Compassion, love, uh, just anything, kindness, equality. As I believe that the way to our higher consciousness is through the heart center and connecting and creating that harmony between the mind and the body. And the body could be the heart and the mental state of our being, and the heart centeredness that really creates a path to our higher consciousness, a more direct path to our higher consciousness. But this path that we are on, that brings us more and more awareness of who we are, what we are all about, really comes through the path of love. If you just sum it as such, it just comes through the path of love, and which along with it is compassion, being compassionate, understanding, kind, and just loving towards each other.
Yeah, and to ourselves, right?
It starts there. Absolutely starts there. We have to refine our thinking, reprogram our own state of consciousness, and do the work. You have to do the work, like you mentioned earlier. We are, as human beings, we are very complex beings, right? And we have this mental, physical, emotional aspect of who we are that comes from that spiritual aspect of ourselves. So the path is to really tap into our heart center, however it may be for us. It could be different, for any individual is on an individual basis. Some of us focus on our children, our family, or the way we focus on whatever is at hand. If you are, involved in sports, or, the love of the game is that mentality that is a little different than, the competition, right? Those of us who thrive in anything that we do, we got to have some kind of compassion. You got to love it, right? You got to, that just as simple as that. Simplify things for us. The meaning of life really is within the joyful moments that we live, and that's, sometimes that is clouded by our intellectual aspect of how we look at things, logical aspect of things. So we have to consciously, intentionally take time, and that's it takes doing. Take time to tap into that heart center. Go out to the nature. Listen to music. Some good music. Not just any music.
Yeah. Well, and it's like what I hear you saying, and just tying it back to this characteristic that we're talking about, is the way to deal with the insecurity and the stress of this time is to tap into your passion, your inspiration, your joy. But with how hectic and pressure-filled things are right now, you have to do it intentionally. You have to make it a priority. It's not going to happen by accident. We were talking about this a little bit in the last episode, responding to Guru Singh's teachings of, like you were saying, peace isn't passive. Like, if you want to create peace within yourself, you have to proactively create peace. It's not going to just happen.
Discipline, consistency comes in. Again, everything has a place within our consciousness. Everything has a place. Our identity, our personalities, our egos, our heart, logical aspect of who we are, our reasoning, our thinking. everything has a place. But we gotta step back once in a while and do a self-evaluation of where am I? And more, I'm talking about more internally, my thinking about everything that I have in my life, that's going on in my life, my career, my job, my, and my political views and everything. Where is it coming from?
Yeah. And am I tapping into my source, my inspiration, my soul?
Exactly.
Like that connection with spirit, with collective creation, with divine intelligence, like where you got to cultivate that. Like things are getting so busy and hectic and stressful that you need to spend time and energy cultivating your connection.
Every system in our life, in this civilized world of us, every system sort of has created a sense of separation. And for us, there's so much, instead of bringing more unity and more inspiration into our life, there's more and more separation and fear and and everything else that takes us into this rabbit hole of just having to protect ourselves from everyone else. Religion, the political system, even the educational system, and even the business, the world of business, is all about competition. It's little competition. You could even word it something else to have a better association with whatever terms are out there. But everything has its place. So it's not to eliminate anything from our life, but to balance things in our life. And again, the way is to stop, just like if you do the same thing over and over again, that's the definition of insanity. We're trying to figure out of our way out of this mess from the same level of consciousness that has created it. So we have to go beyond it. And beyond that consciousness is beyond our mental aspect, intellectual aspect of who we are. Tap into our heart center. And again, simple things. Just bring joy back, whatever that is for you, into your life. And again, it takes time, it takes action, it takes intention. We have to make time to do it. We have to be intentional about it.
Wow, we covered a lot in that conversation about some of the values of this shift into the Aquarian age. These are intense times, and man, am I glad that I have Kundalini Yoga to help me through it. All right, we'll transition into our pranayam for today. And today's pranayam is a powerful one. It cleans out toxins, helps strengthen and balance the throat chakra, and it can be good for your thyroid. It is a little strange though, so if you're uncomfortable doing kind of out there pranayams, you can always stick to 3-part yogic breath or just long deep breathing while we do this pranayam together. All right, come sitting up nice and tall, elongating your spine. Lift up your heart. Lift your shoulders up, back, and down. Crown of the head nice and tall. Chin tilted slightly down and back. Sitting nice and tall, relax the shoulders now, relax the face, relax the abdomen, and close your eyes. Let's start by just taking some regular breaths, inhaling deeply, exhaling completely. Inhaling through the nose, exhaling through the mouth. Inhaling and exhaling. Now we're going to continue inhaling through the nose, and when we exhale through the mouth, we're going to make a sound like we're fogging up a mirror. So inhaling through the nose, nice deep inhale. Exhaling with a ha sound. Inhale through the nose. Exhale through the mouth with a Now you probably wonder why it's called lion's breath, and that's because we're going to stick our tongue out. So on the inhale, we're going to inhale through the nose like we just did. When you exhale with the sound, stick your tongue out and down. So your tongue is going towards the tip of your chin on the exhale. And then on the inhale, you can bring your tongue back in, inhale through the nose. So let's close our eyes and we're going to do this together. So let's take a normal inhale through the nose. Normal exhale through the mouth. And we'll begin. Inhaling through the nose, long and deep. Exhale with the and your tongue out. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Keep breathing in this pattern. Your eyes are closed and focused at the third eye. Going at your own pace. For these last few breaths, really stretch your tongue out. See how it opens up the throat. All right, we'll do 3 more. Last round. All right, inhaling deeply. Suspending gently. All the energy up the central channel of the body, eyes at the third eye. Exhale, relax the body, relax the mind. Checking in with your mental, emotional, and spiritual selves, noting how this meditation was for you. And blinking your eyes open. All right. right, so that's lion's breath. I hope that you enjoyed it. All right, that was a fun one to teach. As we keep going, we're going to kind of get, we'll repeat some of the basics, of course, but we're going to get into some of the more fun and interesting pranayams. All right, so that is it for the 43rd episode of Heart-Centered Revolution podcast. Again, we're so grateful to you for being here, for supporting the podcast. And as a reminder, we have a special kind of contest going on where between August 16th and August 22nd or 23rd of 2022, if you leave a review wherever you listen to a podcast, just take a screenshot of your review and email it to me at jen@heartcenteredrevolution.com, and I will send you a free meditation. It's a 11-minute Laya Yoga meditation, and it's a video. We kind of break down the whole meditation pretty specifically. And as I shared in the last episode, this meditation was really responsible for one of my favorite breakthroughs that I've had with Kundalini Yoga. So I hope you enjoy it. We will see you next time. I guess we won't see you. We'll hear you, connect with you next time. All right. Love you. Bye.